So I'm going to do this really quickly, and it's really about giving you awareness of resources that are available. I think I'm happy that some of the feedback we got during the last day and a half is that there is a lot of resources. It can be confusing. We've done a lot of investment to create it. Maybe now we need to make more investment to simplify it. But our objective here was really to make as much of this self-service, and not, Yoko doesn't need to say I'm being too pushy. Every few weeks he tells Etan you're being too pushy. We are excited about this and making it happen. And I do want to just say, just as a framework, I would like to suggest that every one of you are building products, whether you're already we're in fours where they're already deep into the design and thinking about the UX, or you're where UKG is trying to figure out what the first use case is going to be, and many of you are in different steps of this. Works who are hopefully going to build their whole world around this, right? We've been thinking very hard about how we address creating simplicity and easing the ability to make this happen, because in the end, adoption has to also be easy, around three different aspects. And depending on where you are in the ecosystem, all three may be relevant, or one or two of them. So one is around helping credential agent operators, so anyone integrating the ability to issue or inspect into your system or your service, is making it easy to manage that project, get to an MVP relatively quickly, right? Brian was talking earlier about, Brian from Korn Ferry, about, when we started this out, it was hard. I think, Kike proved that it isn't that hard. But that's because he has a great team. But it wasn't that easy in the beginning. It's getting easier and easier. We want to ensure that you take advantage of all the resources and capabilities that are available to make it as easy as possible for you. The second is those of you who are credential agent operators for customers of yours, you want to make it easy for your customers to get on board. And I won't show stuff that already Andres showed yesterday, but we've been thinking a lot about how to make it easier for JobVite to easily register all of their customers, so it doesn't need to be a long, complex process. And from forward to launch, once the system is up and running, how do we turn on another customer? Where we do know that there's legal requirements, there is some complexity, technical and legal, to make that happen. And the third is, once you have everything running, we still know that we have challenges around individual adoption, right? And we need to design the individual experience in a way that will ensure the highest level of individual uptake of what we're offering. So those are three very different types of challenges. And we've been working hard to create content around all three of them. And I'm not going to get into all the content. I just want to expose you to some of the work we've been doing. Because one of the things that I can see, and my team sees every day, is that across every one of these, we have an incredible spectrum of different experiences. And that means that either, it's a combination of the capabilities of the different organizations, of how much they understand our world, of how well we're communicated. There's a lot of parameters go into why that's true. But why have some organizations done the technical integration in a few weeks, and some are working on it for 2 years and fumphing around and struggling with it? Right? Why are some launching a solution and they're getting 70 and 80% candidate uptake or individual uptake, and others are launching and getting 8%? Right? When we see that diversity, you start asking, what are the parameters that are impacting that, and how can we help our members achieve the best results, the easiest, fastest, and best results? So that's what all this work is about, and we need you. So what we really want to encourage all of you, those of you who are already in this, but those of you who are just starting out, and a few of you in the audience are just starting out, to tell us what you need. And first of all, make sure you find everything. So I just put a few things here just to give you a sense of some of the things that exist. So, when you look at the issue of how to project plan, if you're starting out and you need to integrate your solution, Velocity into your solution, really we have a whole website now. If you go to the Velocity Network Foundation website, you go to the bottom of it, we have a whole section around supporting about adoption resource called Adoption Resources, the link at the bottom of that website. And a big part of it is around all kinds of resources to integrate your solution beyond the technical documentation, which I'm sure you all know. What does a testing plan looks like? We actually have an Excel of a basic project plan. Why is there thinking about all the things I need to do start with that. You know, every system has its unique aspects, but start with that of downloading our basic testing plan. And I won't, you know, I'm not going to show all these slides, but we've realized that for many organizations, doing velocity is new, and it's for the first time doing something like this. And we've really set out a set of services and support mechanisms around all of these things, about your project planning. Do you know about all the tasks to put into the project plan so you don't forget critical things and then get hit in the end? You know, the solution design. I tell every new member who joins, you don't have to consult with us. You know, your IP is your IP, and if you want to not use our advantage and our experience, that's fine. We respect that completely. You're building your solutions. We're an open network. Leverage the utility as you please. But I do really encourage all of you to take advantage of the experience we have. We're talking with almost everyone here. We've seen the work of them. They're thinking about the UI, what's been working and what hasn't. Let us help you. It's our offer. We respect the confidentiality of every organization. We won't share with any other organization. We know you have competitors here about what they're doing. Okay, so technical support, which other than a few organizations who have managed to stream through this without getting any of our help, most need our help, and we're there to help you. Operational readiness, it's one thing to build on test it, it's another to be able to scale this up, and so on. And holder adoption, which is our third chapter. And we've created tons of resources. All this is available on our website. I just want to make sure that you're starting by asking what's available for me. For instance, we've created a basic WBS of all the projects from our experience. And for each one of them, we've actually broken it down to tasks, generic tasks that we see from our experience that you should be planning. Are 100% of them relevant to every one of you? Maybe not. But should you start by looking at these? Absolutely you should. Don't sit down with a blank piece of paper and try to figure out. So try to figure out what resources are requirements and what tasks are needed for every step. I'm not going to walk through this, but just so you get a sense that all of this is available for you to use your planning. And even things like, you know, we've had a lot of members who have started working, and then in the middle of the work they discovered, oops, we need DBA, and oops, we need InfoSec people to review this, or oops, what about compliance, right? So even things like telling you in advance, think about in some point in this project, you're going to need to get, whether it's 3 different people because you're a startup and everybody does this, or it's 30 different people because you're a big corporation, and even InfoSec is people in different organizations and you need to consult with, you know, then think about it in advance and get all those people involved. So we've really tried to lay all that out. So there's a lot of information on that first challenge of how to plan your project and so on. The second is around how to get your participating organizations on board. I'll just remind you of this, but it's just to say, we know that if you're an Infor or UKG, or I don't know if Alex is in the room, an SAP that has, each of you have thousands of customers, right? It's going to be, and it's a new thing, and what am I registering for, and what are these keys, and why am I signing this participant agreement, and wait a minute, I'm going to get tokens? Now my CFO needs to understand what these tokens are. You know, there's a lot of questions, and we are just at the beginning of making that as simple as possible. But technically, it's a lot easier now, as Andres presented yesterday. But we also want to work with you to ensure, certifier, that we make this as easy as possible, and we're gaining that experience. So more and more of our members have actually done this with their members. So if you're doing it the first time, don't start from scratch. We've seen the conversations, we've helped with the documentation, right? Take advantage of that. And the third aspect, which I think is the most important, and we only just started learning about this in the last few months, because until I think PreCheck were our first issuer to really start issuing, not in a project within SAP to SAP employers or within Aon for Aon employees, but really to the general public, we didn't really have a lot of experience around seeing how individuals, oh, that's not the right slide though, how individuals experience this. So we've been starting to learn about the individual experience. And what really is impressive and requires a lot of thinking is that we really are seeing an incredible difference in uptake. And it could be the population. So if you think about, if I'm a young graduate in a university in India of computer science, downloading an app and getting a digital credential is obvious and clear, and why would I even think of anything else? And I'm digitally savvy. And if you're a 55-year-old nurse who this is the last job I want to have and I'm planning on retiring, I'm less comfortable, digitally, and maybe I don't have any motivation to do it. And what another app? Why do I need this? So it's a question of population. But I think even much more than that, it's a question of how are things communicated? We've seen members try to use language which is so confusing and even just wrong in terms of the message it gets across. What credential is created? There are credentials of different values to people, right? I think we've seen organizations that issue a credential that was you completed a course 3 years ago and suddenly someone comes back and issues you a credential. We're not surprised that people ask, why do I want this? I did that course 3 years ago. And there's a very big difference between getting a real time. I finished a course. At the end of it, I say, oh, here's a verifiable credential that you can store, or something that I did a long time ago and now I'm suddenly offered, right? Obviously, a degree or an employment record or a license has more value for most individuals than a specific course or things. But we're learning all of that. But I do think that designing the journey, the experience, and the communication is where we're learning is a very, very big differentiator. We've created a ton of content, and we're enriching it all the time. So every time one of you sits down with us and builds another set of communication, or we try it out and we see that that's improved, we're adding to our website, right? So we have this adoption toolkit, and we've created communication materials, and we have examples of user journeys that we've designed. We want you to take advantage of all these things, okay? I'm just throwing this out so you don't miss any of these materials. We've learned, that through some of our members who do have a lot of consumer design experience and knowledge, that you actually need to think about this as designing a user journey, right? Whether it's the first time I meet this as an applicant on telemetry, or whether suddenly I get offered something on Infor, or I'm in some use case. At Noki, this is all most people, this is a new language, it's a new kind of offering. How I explain it, what are those touch points? How at each touch point I create the right messaging, what information is available if I want to ask questions, right? All that you need to think through. You need to think through any other consumer interaction, and plan it and optimize it. And although they'll all get mad at me for saying this, we don't know all the answers. We really don't. We really don't know, you know all the answers. Yeah, I don't know all the answers. Ask Dole, but although we really don't know all the answers. A lot of this is experimentation. A lot of this is A/B testing. A lot of this is trying something, measuring it, and seeing if something doing a little bit different improves performance. But we're gaining all this knowledge together, and we want you to expand. We created great content. So we have a couple workbooks specifically that we've created because we've had the opportunity to work with PreCheck on background screening in healthcare, and we've leveraged that knowledge to create some content that's not CISIV specifically or PreCheck specific, but is relevant if you're doing something similar. We've had some opportunity to work with Talview in India on assessment. We've generalized some of the learning from there to create material. And even if you're not exactly in one of those, take a look at those materials as thinking about your industry and your use case. Is that helpful? And we've started to create landing pages with great information around what a career wallet is and why I should have it. And they're industry specific, and they're even geographic specific. Because the messages to a healthcare professional in the US, the language, the emphasis, the questions is different than for an IT industry professional in India. And not only do they relate better to one photo than another, but the content is actually different inside. Because the language in a regulated industry is different than a non-regulated industry, and the specific language in healthcare is different. So we don't want you each to have to create all this content yourself. We want you to leverage the existing content, right? There's no reason that everyone in healthcare in the US shouldn't be able to direct your candidates and employees to the same landing page, and that we can answer all those questions consistently and effectively and continuously improve with your feedback. So help us continue to improve those. And then a critical thing that we're also generating more and more knowledge about is measurement. So some of the members shared some of their data in our presentations in the last 36 hours. I think the analytics of this is really critical. for each of you to improve, but for us as a community to improve. And one of the things we really want to recommend is that you start very early in your design process to think about what are going to be your metrics. We have recommendations. Don't invent the wheel, but build it into your solution from the beginning, because you want to be able from the beginning know where or what's working, what's not, how do we continuously improve this. This is just an example of one of the examples we have in our material. But think about your adoption analytics even before you start, right? Build it into your solution from the beginning. And again, all of this is available. It's all on the website. If you don't find anything, please ask us. Don't start, please, just our recommendation, don't start doing anything without sitting down with Nomi or Raj or Justin or Melody, each of my team members, and say, this is what we want to do. Let us pinpoint you at all the available resources and tools that are there. We want to save you time and effort. It's very frustrating for us to work with some of our members who are frustrated themselves that they're investing a lot of energy, and we say, but why are you doing this? Well, because that's how we understood we're supposed to do it. Well, no, let's please save all of you time and focus on the really important things, which is going to be adoption, and not the technical issues, and not things of inventing the wheel. So that's our recommendation. Really, everything is there. If it's not organized well enough, help us. Tell us that. And if there's anything that's missing, please tell us. And the most important is those of you already generating your lessons, we do want you to share with the community. We are very proud of this community of practice, and there's more and more learning happening. I'm sure now that telemetry is live in a few weeks, you'll be able to share, your learning of what's happening, what are people transacting, and so on. When others of you go live, Certifier is issuing lots of credentials. We'll soon be able to learn about how their users are using those and so on. So those kinds of things are valuable for all of us. And if it's not infringing any of your really secrets, but really helping the community grow and learn, we want to encourage you to share that with us and let us share that with the entire community. So that's what I wanted to share in the short time we have. I think we're out of time. We are. We have 30 seconds. Yeah.
I was just saying you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Unless any questions, thoughts, suggestions? Okay, good. We need 2 minutes to probably the other groups to come down, and we'll start our final session.